And so let's get started. So we're going to briefly go over chapters 1 and 2, and then go deep into chapter 3, just because 1 and 2 are mostly setting up the storyline between Rick and the coach and Rick and Michelle. And what you'll find as we go through the book is that on chapters 1 and 2, basically, it's all the examples of all the things that you are going to learn in the following chapters that are more focused on action items. And so chapter 1 was Lunch of a Lifetime with where he met Michelle. Chapter 2 is when he went to hear J. Michael speak. And then chapter 3 is when his first conversation with Coach. And if you have any questions, like if you've just popped in with us, feel free to speak up at any time or to put it in the comments. I have asked Roxanne to watch the comments because I can't see them, and then just let me know. So in chapter 1, Lunch of a Lifetime, Rick is a struggling agent, and you can tell from the context that he was at one point a very prominent agent in the market. But he has fallen on hard times, and now he's having lunch with Michelle, a lender in his market. So he meets Michelle at EBT, which is like a fancy restaurant, I would say, from the sound of it. And everybody seems to know her. And as we go through, you'll see that that was done on purpose. It is one of the strategies. And so Michelle explains to Rick that the so the generosity generation, that they spend their time, energy, effort, and money on people that they actually like and trust, because those are the most valuable people to their business. And then she invites him to go see J. Michael speak. And then we go to chapter 2. Rick attends the event, and if you remember, it's like a rah-rah, huggy thing, and he's not so comfortable, but he does sign up for coaching because he knew or felt that that's what he needed to do. So a couple of success stories that were shared at the J. Michael Speaks event was a landscaper who took out a very influential customer for a custom experience at an exclusive golf course. And from that, the customer happened to be responsible for several greens in the area, and ended up hiring this guy to do the landscape architecture for these 6 facilities. Then there was an agent who wrote 350 handwritten letters to people, renters in a complex, and invited them to what was a home buyers event, and she had 77 people respond. So those are impressive numbers and impressive stories. So clearly Rick was moved to sign up for coaching. So that pretty much sets the background and for Rick to start coaching with J. Michaels. But first, we're going to review the communication pyramid. I don't know how much time anybody spent looking at this, because I didn't spend much time when I read the book. So on the bottom, the first 3 rows, advertising, direct mail, and electronic communication, all that when you are communicating using any of those 3 elements, you are in the informational zone. And by the informational zone, you're only passing ideas and information to the people. So if you think about texting, you're still, even though that's kind of a common way we communicate, it's not necessarily a way we can influence, and it's best used if you are, confirming an appointment, letting somebody know the address of something, where to meet you, and things like that. Direct mail and advertising, all one-way communication, and you're just like hoping that people open it, read it, and need you at that time. Facebook. People love Facebook and social media. And one thing, even though there's a lot of personal information shared, I would like you guys to think about posting and social media type communication. If you put it on your page, I heard that only 18% of your people will see any one thing that you posted. So it's almost equivalent to you going to the top of the Eiffel Tower and throwing out thousands of flyers and hoping that it lands in front of the right person at the right time that needs your services. Then we move up to handwritten notes. And so handwritten notes, what they do is they kind of bridge that gap between the informational zone and the influential zone, because it becomes very personal, like, oh, you thought of me. Imagine how you felt when somebody, anybody has sent you a note in the mail, and you know the envelope is hand addressed and you're like, whoa, it feels kind of nice. Because it's different. It's not a bill, it's not an advertisement, and it could be simple, and it could just be like, hi. I think Michael talked about that today. But yeah, so then that moves us into the influential zone, where we want to spend 80% of our time. And it sounds like a lot, but when you really like factor it down, like right now we are in the influential zone because we are in a position in which we are using our voices to communicate and influence each other. I understand I'm doing most of the talking right now, but you guys can still speak up and argue a point or to agree or disagree or anything like that. So we are in the influential zone. So you have phone calls, you have events and seminars, and they could be fun events, they could be educational events, and they could be events that belong to somebody else, and you just invited all your friends. So think about if your city has like movies in the park, you can invite your friends to go to movies in the park and be like, hey, we're going to be over here. Look for our flag, look for our balloons, and come join us. So someone else's event. And then, of course, a one-on-one meeting. And when I'm talking to other people and they start to engage about like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it starts to take up a lot of time in their day, what they're planning to do. I will encourage you to think about, is it in the influential zone? If not, does it make sense for you to do that instead of being in the influential zone? So, chapter 3. This is a chapter we're going to go deep in, and we're just getting started. And I am going to ask you guys to put a couple things in the comments box. So we're going to go over referral goal setting, affirmations, blessings book, the epitaph, and eulogies, the perfect voicemail greeting, do it now exercise, and power notes. So first up, if you didn't, so it's a little out of order from the book and the like outline I gave you, because a lot of people, when I talk to them, they're like, well, I don't know how to figure out my referrals goal. So we are going to start with your sales. So if you know what your goal was for 2020 in volume, or if you know it in number of units, that's okay, or number of transactions. So the first thing I want you to think of is your goal, and then I want you to multiply that by 3. And the reason we're multiplying that by 3 is because Coach said so. And so I use this number. I know it's a really odd number. However, it just I worked backwards and ended up here. So when we triple the goal, we are at $8,675,309 for volume. So so you look at the little calculator, that's where I got the number from. So let's do the math. If our goal is sorry, 8,675,309. The average deal in my market is 250,000. So I would need 35 deals, right? So I will take that and then divide it by 50%, assuming a 50% close rate. And so I need to receive 70 referrals in order to reach that goal. So if you guys want to go ahead and type in how many referrals you need into the chat box, and give me 1 second. My commander from the Air Force is messaging me. Thank you, Claire. Claire has 72 referrals that she would need. So going on to the next one. So now we know that we want to earn, we know we want to earn 70 referrals. So in order to earn 70, we need to give 140. So basically what that comes down to is, to get 70 referrals, I will need to consciously give out 140 referrals. And those referrals, they don't have to be like, oh, I'm referring a qualified buyer to Roxanne the lender. It could be like, I'm referring, I'm connecting Roxanne the lender with another agent. That is a referral. And a referral, you need to, the person you're referring need to be able to communicate with the other person. So if you've connected them through a text message, so they have each other's phone numbers, or if you connect them through an email address where they have each other's contact information, or even a Facebook Messenger, or in person, even better. You have, that counts as your one referral. So so make sure you write those numbers down, your 70 and your 40, and keep that in mind as you go through the year. So our next thing is affirmations. And affirmations, which I'm sure everybody knows and has heard about, is just, you know, an I am statement that's affirming something about you, something you want to be or achieve. In the book, he says to make sure you include the Rainmakers affirmation, which is, each and every day, someone somewhere in my city needs my services. My job today is to find that person. Once you have your affirmations, write it down on a sticky note for like your mirror. So you want to keep it before you daily. Maybe you put it on your phone. Maybe, you know, you have it in a journal that you look at every day, but be able to keep it before you. So, okay. I'm going to go back. Oops. I'm going to go back one. So a couple other, I included in the spreadsheet, sorry, the outline, a couple other affirmations that you can use would be, I am a champion. I love the Carrie Underwood song Champion, and there are just a lot of powerful words behind it, and so I like that one. And then also one I use is, I'm a referral magnet. Referrals flow to me freely from my community and beyond. So those are pretty, I guess you can say, generic in a way that everybody can use those. So if you don't have any, feel free to borrow those. And as time goes by, they will morph and you will grow in quantity. The Blessings book. In the book, Rick says, Coach tells Rick that he needs to get a blessings book. And this is where he will write his daily gratitude and his affirmations. So the takeaway action for you guys tonight is, if you have a journal or a notebook or even just paper, you can start right where you are. You don't need a special book. I showed pictures of like just the basic journals that you could buy. Um, and then just start writing, you know, your affirmations for the day, and then below it your gratitude, or vice versa. And it doesn't have to be major. And when you're doing your gratitude, don't worry if you have to if you get stuck and it's not deep, because sometimes, you know, gratitude, you hear people talking, you're like, oh wow, that's super deep, how do I follow that? But just be grateful for all the things around you, whether it's having, you know, pens and stationery available to write your power notes, or you're just happy that you or no and anyone you know has not been, you know, drastically impacted by COVID, or you're grateful for the weather, for the day. And over time, as we get used to it, it grows, and like we start to appreciate even more things. Some of them are simple and some of them will be a little deeper. And the same thing for affirmations. The more we practice it, the more it'll grow. So, epitaph and eulogies. So, I will tell you guys, when I read the book, I was like, okay, the first time I was like, I'm going to read it. And then when I went back through it, I was like, I'm going to lean into this 100%. I'm going to do everything the coach tells Rick to do, because if it worked for Rick, then surely it can work for me. So I would encourage you, no matter how weird it might feel or how cheesy you might think it is, to do these exercises. But put some time in behind the epitaph, which is the words you would want on your tombstone. If you have more than 12, it's okay. If it's less than 12, that's okay too, as long as it encompasses how you want to be remembered. Because how you want to be remembered, you want to make sure that the way you live your life is in line with that. And same with the eulogies. And you don't have to come up with a super long eulogy, but just, you know, some words that you would want, you know, 4 special people to say about you at your your funeral, including a client. So maybe you pick like a client, a business partner, a family member, and then somebody else who knows you in the community that you're friends with. That's what I did. And you can use all kinds of people. You could have 4 clients if you specifically know who you want to write from the perspective. But I highly encourage you, don't skip over this one just because you don't feel like doing it. Matter of fact, don't skip over any of them if you don't feel like doing, because they are pretty simple, and it's the little things that make a difference. Did somebody have something? Okay. So the next thing is the perfect voicemail. And before I even go through this, I am going to read it just so you guys can kind of get a vibe of how it might sound. I will tell you, it is long. And if you don't do this, at least have a voicemail that says your name and indicates that you're in real estate, because I call real estate agents for different reasons. And I'm always so surprised at how it says nothing about them being in real estate, but it's one of the smallest ways to remind people. It's almost like wearing a name tag. So in here, it's going to say what the, to skip a digit. And if you don't know what it is, you can Google it for your carrier. I actually just called my phone so many times and went through the numbers until I found that it was the number 7. So yeah, so I'm going to read how it might sound. Thank you for calling the office of Monique Harps. As always, you may press 7 to skip this greeting at any time to leave your message. Again, you may press 7 to skip this greeting. Because I want to provide you a level of service that makes it very easy and comfortable for you to refer real estate clients to me, I will be returning calls from 11 a.m. to noon and 4 to 5 p.m. today. So after the tone, please leave your name, your number, all the details and information you can provide so that I can better prepare myself to return your call. And also, please leave the name of the person who referred my services to you so that I can get a prompt thank you out to them for their endorsement. Thank you for calling. Have a great day. And remember, with Monique Harps, we lead the way with irrational generosity. So it is pretty long. It gets the point across. However, just so you know, it was written to speak to all 4 disc types. And so that's important to keep in mind because it makes people feel important. They want to feel important. It allows the D's to skip by pushing the number 7. But then it gives a lot of detail for like your C's. So if you're kind of reluctant, think about it, try it, see what happens. I know one person on the call did this, and I called her, and I loved it. So somebody's not on mute. I'm gonna check real quick. That'll be Gary. So okay. Do it now. If you are like a procrastinator, this will be a good exercise. You're to repeat, do it now 49 times, 3 times a day. And it doesn't take long, less than a minute. I did it at stoplights. And once again, this is one of the cheesy things. I was like, well, I'm going to do it if it worked for him. And so after I was doing it for about 3 days, I remember I was leaving my house and there was a box on the edge of my couch that I needed to move to the trash or something like that. And I was like, oh, I'll get it later. Before I could even like lock the door, I was like, oh no, I need to do it now. And so it definitely made a difference, and I noticed it. So it works, and I definitely encourage it. And if you're not good about remembering, I would encourage you to put timers on your phone that just say, do it now.
Monique.
And, yes, ma'am.
Aaron has typed up something here. He says that he struggles with sticking to his time block, so the perfect voicemail always scares him. What if he doesn't respond at those times?
So, go ahead, is there more?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple things with that, right? I also struggle with sticking to my time blocks. But I find that you don't necessarily get as many voicemails, especially nowadays if people text. So you can add in a statement that says text for a faster response in there. But I've never had anybody come to me and say, hey, you said you were calling me back at 11 and you didn't. And then also it's a challenge to yourself, and we'll talk about time blocking later on, to follow through on that commitment that you've made to yourself and the people that you value, because it's one thing for a complete stranger that's not in real estate, that's just calling to sell you something. It's one thing to not call them back, but it's another thing when you've kind of made this promise to yourself and to the people who are in your tribe that you're going to do this. But all in all, at the end of the day, if you don't make the call in that exact time, I personally feel like it's okay. And I have the message on my phone, or at least I did until they changed over. I didn't find any complaints with it, but I worried about the very same things that you did. So you can change the times or in the day. So maybe you say within 24 hours, if that works for you, or 48. Is that good, Aaron? You can come off mute. Okay, I'll keep going then. So power notes. So there are 7 steps to a power note, and I'm going to go through these, and then at the end of it, I'm going to give some disclaimers to give you permission to not be perfect. So the first step in the power note is to use unbranded cards with a symbol or monogram that represents you, because it's a personal note. Use blue ink. It looks original and positive. Also, blue is like the favorite color of like 80% of Americans or something like that. In the words, use you, but avoid I, me, and my. Be specific in your praise. Identify and acknowledge a characteristic, a talent, unique quality. Number 5, leverage the power of positive projection. Identify a personal characteristic you want to improve and express respect for others who possess that quality. Happiness, wealth, balance, etc. Write rightly. Slope your text slightly upward from left to right. And they recommend the book Your Handwriting Can Change Your Life. And then the power of the PS. Use a PS as a call to action. Ask the recipient to take action such as emailing, calling, or texting. So I included 2 examples. The one on the left is one that was tied to an event and says, don't forget to pick up your pie from my office on November 26th. See you soon. Sincerely, somebody, Jesse, somebody. PS, text me to confirm your pie choice. So really the PS is just something to get those people to reach out to you. Then Melissa wrote to Tommy, it is so fun watching you grow personally and professionally. You are so impactful on your community and friends. PS, we are going to toast to success. So her PS was a little different. It didn't really call to action. However, I do know that they are friends. So they already have a more personal connection beyond their professional connection. And so I said I was going to give you guys some notes to make it, give you permission to not be perfect. So if you don't have a blue pen, it is more important that you write something in black than not write anything at all. If you have branded cards that are just sitting around and you have a whole brand new box of them, which I had somebody who did, go ahead and use them up. You just might not want to order more. He says to have, I'm going to go back. He says to use a symbol or a monogram. You've heard Michael talk about he uses note cards with lighthouses on it. When you start out, we might not have anything that we identify with as a symbol. We may not have the funds to get something monogram made, and then we may not have funds to have something customized. So like I've known some agents who have custom cards that are on brand, like so it has the brand colors and maybe some images, but there's nothing that says like the company's name or their name. So feel free to just buy cards. I'm going to step over here and get some examples. I get my cards from Tuesday morning, and I can get a box of them, but you know, they're a variety of cards and different colors or whatnot, and I just write them and send them out. And you can do the same. So don't stress about having to like go buy special cards and special pens. It's okay. Do not stress about your handwriting. What is important is that you thought of the person enough to take time and energy out of your day to write a note and then mail it. And they're going to be appreciative for that. And so today, I don't remember if it was Michael or another one I saw this, they told a story about this agent who was like, I don't know what to write in my card. And so the broker was like, well, you know what, just go address the envelope and bring the card to me when you're done, and I will tell you exactly what to write in it. And sure enough, when she got to the broker opened it up and just wrote the word hi in it and closed it and said mail it. And he did. And the person who received it contacted the agent and was like so appreciative that she had thought of him. So keep that in mind when you're getting like a roadblock about doing your power notes. They talk about praise and identifying, using positive projection. That's not, it's going to be hard to do that all the time. So every note doesn't have to be a power note, like you saw with Tommy. She didn't use the call to action from number 7, but she did, compliment him. And then on the other one, they didn't compliment the person. They were just reminding them about their Pi Day, but they used the call of action. And so the important thing is execution. Send a card, send a sticky note. I don't care. Just write something kind and let people know you're thinking about them. And now is a good time because people are at home. Nothing new happens from day to day when we're quarantined. And some people are even more quarantined than you might be. I know I have friends that are more quarantined than I am because they have kids and they don't want to put the kids at risk. So they make sure everyone is staying at home. So our very last thing in this chapter is to beware of success suicide. And it's the breakdown before the breakthrough. And what coach says is that something inside of you will start to reject the changes that you're making. You may get sick, injured, or something else can happen to you that sabotages you. And he even alludes to the fact that a lot of times it's the decisions that we make. So be mindful of them. And what I can try to relate this is if you've ever been like on a workout program and you're like, I'm going to get up early and I'm going to work out every single day. Well, not every day, but Monday through Friday, I'm going to go walk a mile. So you're not doing anything major. And you go and you're good and you're good. And you've been walking for 10 days. And then something happens the night before. And you get to bed a little bit later. So then you don't get up. Well, in that moment, you made a decision that sabotaged you. And then you may or may not get back on the horse the very next day. So be mindful of that. You might just get sick. Anything can happen. Somebody mentioned, I think on Michael today, Darla mentioned that like what's going on is a form of success suicide. A lot of people, not just agents, are stepping back and saying like, oh, my goals are shot for the year. I can't do this. I can't do that. Instead of trying to figure out how they can do what they need to do, because what they can do may look different than what they're used to doing. So keep that in mind. And I meant to include a wrap-up slide that said like all that we covered, but we went over referral goals, the epitaph and eulogy, affirmations, the blessings book, power notes, and all that good jazz. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and open up the discussion. So does anybody have any questions, comments? Please have something. Nothing?
Hi, Monique. It's Bernie.
Hi.
Hi. I send out a lot of cards and mail all the time, and it doesn't matter that it's real estate. I just had sent out some, and I just got a note back from a friend that they're having a tough time with their husband's very serious illness and stuff. And she just texted back and said, thank you for that, sending me the card and that you're thinking of me. So I know this works.
That's awesome. And then also, I think, is Renee still on the call? She might have popped off. I know I talked to her last week after our call, and she had just printed out like a little poem that let me turn my camera on, you guys. I'm being so rude, sorry. That she had printed out, like she had just like that border paper that you can buy from like Michael's or Office Depot. She had printed out a little poem, and then above it she was like, oh, something about being shut in, but she's thinking about them and she hopes that this brightens their day. And that's what she was sending to 50 of her people. And I told her, because we hadn't done power notes yet, I said, just put a little handwritten PS on the bottom that says, call me or text me when you get this. So we'll have to see if she gets any feedback from that. So does everybody have their referral goal? Did they figure that out?
Yes, we've got
Three
several
people.
up here. Yeah.
Cynthia,
Mm-hmm.
66.
Mm-hmm.
Selena. That's good. What about, how do you guys feel about the number of referrals that you have to give out? Nothing.
What is it that we're supposed to give out? 5
Three,
times?
three times.
3 times.
Yeah. That's pretty comfortable.
The thing that I struggle with, I have no issue at all giving out referrals, and I do so all the time. I have all kinds of numbers in my phone, and I will quickly refer an electrician, a handyman, a plumber, a hairstylist, a makeup artist. Where I falter is asking for people to be as comfortable referring me. And I think in my mind, I don't know if it's my upbringing, that the people who I'm referring never ask me to do that. I do that willingly. And I guess it's in my mind that I want others to do the same without me having to ask for a referral. And I think that's where I get stuck on asking.
So everybody else, give a thumbs up if you're guilty of the same thing. So you're not alone, Karen. You're not alone. But the future chapters, we will, if you haven't read ahead, we will be talking about how to ask for referrals, who to ask for referrals from, because, you know, you find out, are you an agent, Karen? So as an agent, you have a lender that maybe you send all your business to, but when you actually like look up, that lender has never really reached out to ask how they could help you. Besides like, oh, you want to co-brand something? You know, it wasn't like, oh, can I sponsor something? Or, oh, here's a, you know, here I have this qualified buyer. Would you like to help them? So, and not that we should expect that from our lenders, but it's just an example that a friend of mine had, that she'd been referring to this one lender all the time. But when she was like trying to call after 7L to reach out and connect, she got nothing. So she ended up moving her business. So are you guys going to do the exercises? I'll send you guys the PDF. I meant to include it so you could download. My bad, I'll do better next week. Has anybody read ahead besides Roxanne?
I've read the book before, so I'm rereading it.
Okay, so
And this I'm hoping to implement.
Okay.
Same here.
Okay, I hope I've given you guys some. I'm very much focused on the action. I'm like been in another book club where they kind of like try to capture it like a regular book club in the story. So I hope that what I did provide was like enough to help you actually execute. So was it? Okay. And don't beat yourself up if you can't. The book says like try to do like 50 power notes. Don't beat yourself up over that. Just if you can only do 5 in a week, do 5 in a week to start with, but just get used to the practice of doing it. And if you're thinking, I don't know who to send them to, start with people that like when you see their name, it makes you feel good, you know? And like I have a friend, I know she loves mail. I can just write her name down and be like, hey, I thought about you. Hope all is well. Monique, P.S. Call me when you get this. And that's all it takes. So you guys are so quiet. You guys are the quietest I've ever had. Is it because you're on Zoom?
Question for you.
Okay.
What's the purpose of doubling the number of referrals? Not the referrals, the goal. You said
Doubling the goal?
Yeah, double the number of the goal, and then double that will be the referrals you give out, right? Is that what I
Yes.
understand? What was the purpose of doubling the goal itself?
If I had to guess, it was probably just to make it more of a stretch goal. Are you talking about when we went from 35 to 70? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, that's because it's the assumption that referrals will close at a 50% rate. So if you notice that your referrals close at 30%, then you'd want to use 30%.
Yeah. Okay. And the number of power notes, is that a weekly goal or a?
So, I think it was just in the book. It was written as that was just to kind of prime the pump and get everything flowing. Because once things start flowing and, people start calling you back, you're going to start getting busy, right? Assuming, so this agent was very struggling, and his phone wasn't ringing. So the idea is we're going to make your phone ring. And the first step was to send out these 50 power notes. But once the phone is ringing, and if your phones are already ringing, then, the people that you meet for one-on-ones, you'll send them a power note. You might send a note to new clients. You might send a note to people who referred you a client. You might send a note to someone that you would like to do business with or get to know. So that number will fluctuate weekly, but you want to make it consistent practice. So one agent from a previous book club, she prepares her power notes on Mondays, and then on Tuesdays, she actually writes the notes. And she does 10 a week.
Okay. And one other thing, not to be challenged with the system or anything, and I don't know, maybe I'm unique in this, but I have a lot of people that I don't have a physical address for.
Mm-hmm. So are you asking?
Video message?
You could do a video message. You can also ask for it. And the way I ask for it is, I say, hey, I have this card to drop in the mail to you. May I have a good mailing address? And they can give you their work address or their home address. If you've been around the 7L community, you'll hear talks of events. And so sometimes I'll use, hey, we're planning our annual whatever event, and we want to make sure you don't miss out on an invitation. Can I have a good fill in the blank? Like if I need an email address and a home address, can I get those kind of things? So, and I've never had anybody that I know be hesitant about giving me their address.
Yeah.
Only strangers.
Yeah.
And I've seen people post on Facebook, hey, if I send you out a note, will you give me your address? And
will you open it? Yeah.
Yeah, will you open it?
Mm-hmm. And so then they probably also reach out to that person who's like, yeah, and they're like, well, send me your address.
Yeah.
So,
like,
and like
Christmas
me,
cards.
Yeah, like me personally, I love mail. So all of y'all could go and post that tonight, and I'd be like, ooh, you want my address? Here you go. Here you go. So I just like to get personal mail. So yeah. Karen Karen is, go ahead, Claire.
I was gonna say, so go ahead and give us your address, and that way you can be one of our first power notes to send.
I'll put it in the email.
All right.
And if you guys send me a card, I'll be so happy. I'm going to talk about it, just so you know. Aaron, what state are you in? Can't hear you. Yeah, you're off of mute, but your voice isn't coming through. So maybe you can message me. And is it Rianne? What city are you in? Got it, Aaron. Aaron is in California. And I guess the other is not going to tell us. So, all right. Well, I'm here if you have questions, concerns. You can email me, text me. My information is on my email. signature, so you should have it all. And I believe I've texted all of you guys at some point. If I haven't, I'm sorry. So if you have any questions or you start to like try these things, feel free to reach out and just ask, and I will get a response to you. If you need an example of something, I can do that as well. Read chapter 4 for next week. 4 and 5 tend to be kind of heavy, and since we're meeting week after week, Rick did not meet his coach every single week. You know, if he met him monthly, then, you know, he had time to implement some of these things in his business. So the expectation is not that you will write 50 power notes by next week. You know, I mean, with the coronavirus, you might have time to. If you do, knock yourself out. But don't be too hard on yourself that it makes it that you don't want to do it. But also don't be too lax with yourself that you've read the book and you come to book club and you don't do anything with it. Make sense? All right. So I'm going to give you your time back. And oh, go ahead.
Stacy, I need an accountability buddy. Are you interested?
Did you say Stacy?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll email. I'll give you my contact info.
Okay, great.
Perfect. The connection has been made. So, and I did Ryan. I see that you are
Yeah.
in Rion. Thank you. San Diego. Not San Diego, South Dakota.
South Dakota.
Oh, I lost my train of thought. So next week, read chapter 4. Work on some of the action items that are either in the outline or in the PowerPoint that I'll send out. They're the same. Just challenge yourself to do a little bit more. Don't just come and do nothing. You know, you don't have to do everything, but don't just come and do nothing. Get something out of it for the time that you've invested in the energy. And I will tell you guys ahead of time, one day, thank you, Gary in Los Angeles. One day I'm going to ask you guys how you plan to use this in your business going forward. And I'm going to ask every single person on the call. So be prepared. I'm excited. But with that, we'll close. And you guys have a great week. Stay safe and quarantined.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Monique.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Monique.
Have a good day.